Hey, this is Greg from GamerPops. I'm here with Jeff, and we're trying something new tonight. We're going to do our first joint video review, and this is a good one to start with, Jeff, isn't it?
It certainly is. It's a highly anticipated title from Nintendo. The one that when we first saw it come out, we were like, well, this ought to be interesting because, well, it's Splatoon. Just in spoiler alert. We were like, well, it's an online multiplayer shooter, and when you think Nintendo, you don't think shooting and you don't think online, right?
Yeah, those are definitely not Nintendo's two core strengths, but it's nice to see them take a chance. Nintendo, every now and then they'll kind of bring out something new. There was Pikmin a few years back, that really just kind of this is completely separate from everything Nintendo does, and this kind of feels in that mold. Like it's them taking what for Nintendo amounts to a chance.
And I mean, it ends up. I think you and I both agree when we were talking about this earlier that it ends up being pretty fun actually. And for the most part, I think personally, at least they hit for the most part.
Yeah, like I think what we can say straight up here is if you're looking for reasons why you want to own a Wii U and want to keep owning your Wii U, the reasons have been pretty slim. But with Mario Kart 8, with Super Smash Bros, and now with Splatoon, I think Nintendo's finally delivered on three really phenomenal reasons why you want to own a Wii U. The one caveat I would say, just at this point, I mean, I know it's early with Splatoon. I don't know about the longevity of it, but for that first initial it's a blast, and for now it's fun.
And you make a good point about longevity. It's going to depend upon the community because, I mean, the way that we've seen it structured with, especially with regular online battles, if you can't get 8 people to play, you are not playing. So Nintendo's going to have to, the challenge for Nintendo, I think, is going to be finding ways to keep the community engaged so that you have that critical mass of players to play the game. Otherwise, no one's getting online with this thing. It's very rigid in terms of, it's 4-on-4 and it's random 4-on-4. You don't really get to choose who to play with unless you're playing with friends, and even then, it's going to randomly assign you to teams. Like you probably saw it, I definitely saw it with the pre-release code that we have, which is going to be very similar to the final version of the game. And next week we're going to talk about post-release Splatoon as well, once we've seen how well it responds to a whole lot more players, how the servers hold up, if the matchmaking gets any better. But if the interest peters out over time, then the game will die because it's not set up to be all that flexible right now, and it requires a sufficient players to play. Otherwise, you're going to be out of luck.
Yeah, and that was the one caveat I was going to add is that, we are playing in that pre-release window, so, 1 o'clock Eastern time, not in the morning, not a lot of people online playing Splatoon. And you know what? That's to be expected. Then I just pop back over to Grand Theft Auto and blow up some stuff there. But let's talk about I guess we should start with what makes this game so much fun. And I think we saw this last year when we saw it for the first time at E3, this is just really, it's a shooter, but it's not a shooter. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of a game that takes these elements that we're familiar with, but just bends them in a way that's kind of pure Nintendo, if nothing else.
Yeah. So the main multiplayer mode, when you're starting out, is Turf Wars. Or Turf War. And the idea there is like in traditional shooters, what are you doing? You're murder, death, kill. You want that kill death ratio to be high. It all comes down to killing a lot of other players, and whether it just be purely kill count or capture the flag or things along those lines, there is benefit in taking out your opponents. In Splatoon, it's more of a side benefit than anything else. It's not your primary objective with Turf War. The idea is you want to color as much of the board as possible more than your opponents. If you kill another player or you hit them with enough ink that they disappear or whatever, then there's a respawn point. You've now got free reign for that area to color it yourself. So the benefits are more of a side thing than anything else. Your primary objective is to color the ground more than your opponents. So it's a territorial war more than anything else. So it's a little less aggressive from that standpoint. It's nice in that there are ways for you to be successful even if you're not the best marksman out there. The weapon loadouts are sufficiently different. A lot of new players, for example, like my kids, when they were playing, they were taking the paint roll. and using that to color their area, to help color the area, and having some success with that. As you progress, you try some of the other guns and whatnot, and it's almost like a big game of paintball when it comes down to it. But there's also fringe benefits too in coloring your turf. It's that it gives you better mobility. Movement in this game is a little bit different than what you're used to in other shooters, where you basically you can turn into a squid and duck underneath the ink. And
let's just pause for a second there. Yeah, you turn into a squid. And it's never really explained in the game. It's just one of those like video game things you just take for granted. Yep, I push the trigger button, I turn into a squid.
And then I'm not a squid. I'm a teenage child again, but now I'm back to being a squid when it's civil form. That is kind of weird, and you're right. They guess these are just these weird alien creatures that
just accept it.
Yeah,
you're a squid. You're a boy or a girl, then you're a squid when it's convenient. But like you said, it definitely works well with the mechanic. The thing that I like too, just to kind of touch on what you said, is there are weapons in the game, but there are weapons that are even your base sort of just paint splatter gun, it's not really an offensive weapon. There are some options that you can choose, but a lot of them are, they are more like they're for painting the world. Like you said, the roller, they're weapons that are designed not just to kill or maim. And I mean, that's what we're used to if you play Halo, Call of Duty, whatever, Destiny. It's all about, tweaking those weapons, getting new weapons, getting stronger weapons. Especially in Destiny, that's kind of the whole point of the game. Mm-hmm. This point of the game is, you can get some fun tool. Like, they're almost more tools. You still have to call them weapons because that's kind of the terminology that people understand. But it's really, you're collecting tools, painting tools, mm-hmm. and I like that. That's for us, especially. That's part of what makes this game, family friendly. Is it's not just about getting a new, iron sight for your gun so that you can be more effective at killing people. You're buying, you get stuff that lets you paint better and faster and refill your ink. I guess it's ink, right? It's not paint, so I should stop using the word paint. But it lets you, refill your ink faster, spray ink farther. It's all built around that central premise. And, and I've won in games where I didn't kill anyone or get killed by anyone. It's just because we're running around the map, painting, and you're almost not even paying attention to other players. That almost comes as secondary once you've got the basics of the game down.
Yeah, and that's why I'm comfortable and actually happy to let my kids play without me being in the room, because there's a lot of you're not shooting bullets, you're not shooting lasers, you are just basically getting everything messy by shooting ink all over the place. And a player gets hit with too much ink, they just simply go and they respawn. We're not dealing with we're not seeing blood or anything similar like that. It's the most family friendly shooting game I think I've ever seen. I can't think of anything else that really comes close in that regard. So I'm fine. Like, hey, you want to play Splatoon for a while, guys? Go ahead. I'm gonna go do something, and I come home today to find that Malcolm, my middle son, who's 7, has gone up to level 4 from playing the game, and I'm only at level 5. Spoiler alert. So I feel kind of inadequate there, but that just shows how with a little bit of time, a gamer of almost any age can play and enjoy the game, and I'm okay with it because it's not offensive in any way.
Yeah, and I think what also we should mention on that note, if we're talking about the kids, is this is a positive for a parent, but a negative if you're an FPS player, for first-person shooter player, just in case anyone didn't know. There's no voice chat in this game, and for a lot of shooters, that's just as important as your loadout and your weapons. Mm-hmm. Is being able to communicate and strategize with other people. Nintendo, as we said from the beginning, this is Nintendo doesn't really do online games, so it's always kind of interesting to see how they baby step and dip their toes into the water. Mm-hmm. So no video or no audio chat, which is fine. You don't have to worry about your kids, hearing swearing, interacting with people. That's another piece that helps keep it safe, and that's something I like.
Yeah, a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, it doesn't have voice chat." Honestly, I'm okay with it. I know, yes, it's gonna hurt teamwork. Sure, obviously, you're gonna have to find ways to sort of work together without being able to communicate. But honestly, as a parent with kids that are starting to look in this game now, I'm quite happy with the fact that you can't hear anything. You won't hear "haha, you're a noob," cursing 12-year-olds, all the wonderful things we're used to hearing with Call of Duty and Halo and other types of games.
Well, and I think the reality is too, the way this game plays, it's almost it's almost too frenetic for actual strategy for the most part. Like it's really just run, spray. If it's not, if your paint color is blue and there's no blue or there's yellow,
Hmm.
spray it, or ink. I gotta stop calling it paint. But yeah, it's basically anything that's not already your color, ink it.
Hmm.
That's how the game plays. And like I don't even know how long each level is.
I think
Honestly, I
it's
didn't
three
really pay it.
minutes.
Is it how
Yeah, I think
two
it's
minutes?
you got. I think you got 3 minutes if I'm not
Three.
mistaken.
Okay, so I mean, honestly, I wasn't even paying attention because it's like go, and then you're just going, and then at the end, and when the time runs out, hopefully you've inked more of the level than your opponents, and it just kind of works. You
Hmm.
don't even need to think like, I mean, because a lot of the communication that you'd normally do in a first person shooter is, especially if you're talking like maintaining position, holding ground, getting to key choke points, and controlling the map. Not so much the case here because, I guess once you get more advanced and into some of the higher end weapons, that becomes maybe more of an issue. But for the most part, and I think for most players, it's really just going to be I'm just running around and inking everything I can see,
Hmm.
and that's okay. That's the charm of the game.
Yeah, and the result is a fun and at least you said it's frenetic. It is fast paced, and I'm not a you know me. I'm not a shooter guy at all. I almost detest the genre just because probably because I'm so bad at it. I'm not good at Splatoon either, but I enjoyed like if I've played shooters before, lost, been terrible at it, not enjoyed it. This one I've won some, I've lost some, probably lost more than I've won, but every game is fun, and that's what that's what ends up coming down to for me is that I enjoy this game. And the kids enjoy this game no matter how we do.
But that kind of brings me to the one, iffy part I have about this game that I did touch on earlier. For being something where it's a frenetic burst for 3 minutes where you're just running around spraying, you do get to upgrade your equipment, you get to level up, you get to buy new things, which also level up with you, which is nice. I'm just not sure how long I would personally stay hooked on the game.
Well, they are
Um,
promising like post release more maps. There's supposed to be more modes. Like it's not going to be just turf war. There'll be like a capture the flag or sort of the point of domination control type of thing where you have to control X amount of points for a certain amount of time. There's supposed to be more game modes coming down the road, and that's going to be key to keeping the player base interested.
Yeah, so I mean that's why this is a pre-release review, non-review. We're talking about our experiences, and I like what I've played, and I want to play more, but I also need to see more, to know that this is something that's going to hook me. Like, I'm still, and I will once we finish recording this. I've been playing the heck out of Grand Theft Auto Online since they added the heists in,
Hmm.
and that's a game that's well over a year old. Or I don't even know how old it is now.
It's been around for a
But
while.
yeah, like maybe even 2 years. I
Yeah.
don't. I'm gonna lose track of these things. But like since they added the heist in, it completely reinvigorated the game, and it made the online piece really finally live up to the potential. But here I am, I'm playing that, and I'm playing it on my 360. I'm not even. I turned on the Xbox One tonight because my son got a new Skylander and he really wanted to try it out.
Hmm.
I'm like, shoot, we have to sit here for 15 minutes while the damn thing updates.
Yeah, that's life in the
So
modern console era, unfortunately.
yeah, so and even this was like the first time I've really played the Wii U. It's basically been a Netflix box, and I've been enjoying a lot of stuff on the 360. So
Yeah.
it's nice to get back into the Wii U. It's nice to get back into that control pad. It's been a little while, and it's a welcome return. And hopefully Nintendo can keep this up. We've got E3 coming up. We know we're gonna get a lot of new announcements and stuff, and it feels like it may be too little, too late to save quote unquote the Wii U. But I mean, certainly in terms of the software alone, the momentum has finally shifted. And like I said, with Mario Kart, with Smash Brothers, with Splatoon, we're really seeing Nintendo firing on all of its software cylinders.
Yeah. Now, of course, being Nintendo, they still have some a ways to go with the online aspect, and there are a few issues I had with the way the multiplayer is done. Number one, I mentioned that I only got to level 5. There's a reason for that. Matchmaking in the pre-release was not that great. It was like 50-50 and probably not even that good that I would get into a game waiting in the lobby. I don't know if if you had any more success than I did. But And the other part of it too is the way the lobby is designed needs some work. Hopefully they can address that in the post-release with a patch or something, because you sit there in the lobby, you're waiting for 8 players. If you don't get 8 players, you sit there for like 2, sometimes 3 minutes. You don't have an option to back out, even though you're pretty sure you're not going to get anybody else. You have to wait for the lobby to time out. Hopefully with more players post-release, we won't see that problem, but another problem is
okay, but actually, before you jump into another problem, I just want to add one thing to that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that they gave you a stupid little squid jumping mini game to play on the gamepad.
Yeah.
While you're in the lobby, So as Jeff said, you're stuck there. You can't really do anything but hopefully get matched up with enough people. But they have a great little like 8-bit old school Nintendo game where you're just jumping the squid up the platforms before the floor rises up to kill you. Like, that would have been a game we would have been like, yeah, this is a complete Nintendo, or Nintendo Entertainment System experience. And now we're getting it as a little time filler.
Yeah.
I like that piece.
Yeah.
So anyway, on to your other point.
When you're in the lobby, if you decide, let's say you've lost a match because you're just terrible with a certain weapon, you have to go all the way out of the lobby to change your loadout. That part is a little bit baffling. I can't just be in the lobby and say, I'm gonna change to the roller because I just haven't had much success with it. I have to totally leave the lobby and everything, go back to the overworld Inkopolis and go in and change all my loadouts. So that's a little more tedious than it really needs to be, I think.
Especially since the weapons are so distinct. It's not like we're talking Call of Duty where it's the difference between one machine gun and another machine gun. We're talking about a roller that's rolling ink on the ground versus a big splattery ink sprayer versus something more precise. They're
something
very differently functioning weapons. They're not even weapons though. They're tools.
Yeah, basically. So, I'd like to see them change that aspect. That said, I was actually quite surprised and impressed with the performance, once I actually got into a battle. There was the odd jump sometimes when someone's connection was lagging. They'd be here, and then all of a sudden they'd jump over there, and that would mess up your aiming. And sometimes I noticed players just dropping, all of a sudden they wouldn't be there. And in a 4-on-4 game, if all of a sudden you're down to 4-on-3 or 3-on-2 or something like that, and no one else is contributing, you're not going to win because you need all 4 players working to fill that screen. But that said, I was actually surprised because, as we were saying, Nintendo doesn't have a great track record of online play. The netcode is pretty good for this one so far. Now, next week, it may be a different story. We'll know more once the game hits full release and the actual real servers are up and there's a whole lot of people looking to play the game.
So, I guess in conclusion then, people looking to pick up the game next week when it's the full retail version, when everything goes live, I think we're saying yes to this one, right? Even with our caveats.
Yeah, and don't forget, it's not just the multiplayer too. There's a couple other modes that are in there as well. But the online multiplayer is the main one. That's the one you're going to be, because that's the one you're getting the game for. Because there's a single player, like most shooting games, there's a single player campaign, but it's not huge. It's more
of a training mode, really,
yes.
and extended tutorials to teach you, because even things and things you kind of find out on your own, how to move around and navigate and do some of the things and and really work your way through the levels. That's all brought up through that. It is more, like I said, a tutorial more so than an actual single player experience.
Yeah, it's a tutorial, training ground, or something to do in between matches if you're having trouble finding a match or you just need a little break from getting killed all the time or something and want to feel better about yourself, which is what I did sometimes. So, on its own, it's not enough to don't think, okay, well, I'll ignore the multiplayer stuff. I'll just get this game for, the single player and the local battle dojo mode, and that's going to be good enough for me. No, it's probably not. It's not worth $60 to play just those 2 modes. And I'm going to get in the battle dojo in just a second. So, but it's there for, it's more of a sort of a compliment more than anything else. There is an amiibo battle mode too, but I tried it, couldn't get it to work because even though I have a ton of amiibo, none of them are Splatoon amiibo, and you need Splatoon specific amiibo, assuming any are actually going to be available at release if you can find them in stores. They're available, just they may not be in stores. Everyone may have bought them already. So
I
If
will say
with any luck, I'll try to get my hands on some of the Splatoon amiibo this weekend and try out the mode for when we talk about this on our follow up next week. But I can't make any promises because Nintendo, right?
well, and the best thing you can say maybe about the amiibo program at this point, in a general sense, is that it is completely optional. You
Yeah.
know, that's too bad because I think there was more of an opportunity to do stuff, but with the supply issues, and I mean, and even that, it's not a supply issue. I can go buy 1,000 Mario amiibos tomorrow, so Nintendo can't tell me there's any sort of supply issue. They're just choosing not to make enough intentionally.
Yeah,
So
or they underestimated demand for certain ones. But like you said, you're right. Mario, Luigi, all those guys, they're all over the place. I can't find an Ike amiibo to save my life right now, and the pre-ordering has just been. You know what? That's we could go another 10, 20 minutes on the on
but
that.
we're gonna focus on Splatoon. So
Yes, we're going to focus on Splatoon. Yeah. The other mode I talked about, the Battle Dojo, this was a little bit of a disappointment because, Nintendo have been very, very good with the local multiplayer games. Mario Party, even a little bit of, I think even Pikmin had a mode. Super Smash Brothers, obviously, that's the one we keep going back to. That's our go-to game when the kids want to play something on the Wii U. We just fired it up the other day, for example, just because we enjoy it that much and pounding the snot out of each other. For a company that does that so well, I am surprised that this game does not have a better and more robust local multiplayer mode. Like, I go back to GoldenEye, and that had 4-player split screen, shooting, right?
Yep.
Why doesn't Splatoon have this? Like, you could support it on. There's no reason why. Like, Mario Kart does 4-player split screen. Why couldn't we have a local multiplayer split screen with the four of us in a family just duking out with each other, not having to go online?
Well, anytime,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, anytime you want to reference GoldenEye, we were playing 4-player split screen on like a 24-inch TV, maybe 32 if you were lucky.
Yeah.
Like, I know that monster behind you, it can easily accommodate 4 players quite nicely. So
it's
yeah,
a 58-inch screen, so you'll be playing on 4 29-inch screens as the equivalent, like what you basically played GoldenEye on.
Yeah, so it is kind of disappointing, but again, it's not what you're buying the game for. You really, like, as much as Nintendo is not really an online company or a multiplayer shooter company, you're buying an online focused multiplayer shooter.
Yeah.
It's weird.
The local mode they have, just to explain a little bit, it's a one-on-one mode. That's it. One of you plays on the gamepad and watches the gamepad as you play. The other is played on the TV using the Wii Remote Nunchuck or the Wii U Pro controller. That's it. And you're popping balloons. You're not even playing Turf War or anything else. It is a balloon battle. And you're trying to pop more balloons than your opponent in the given amount of time or reach a certain set score. If you shoot your opponent and quote-unquote kill them, their balloon total goes down, and so on until you win. I would have liked to have seen more, but...
And we still might, because this is
maybe.
Right? So there may be more coming, who knows, but yeah, I mean, obviously the verdict there is don't buy it for the Battle Dojo or for local multiplayer.
Hey, what'd you think about the controls? We were talking about this a little bit earlier today, because you can do either using the twin stick analog, or you can use the gamepad as a motion aimer. And I know that seems I know that the opinion today has been sort of split. Some people are like, oh, I can't do the motion control; it's awful. Other people say I will use nothing but motion control.
I feel like it probably comes down to how much you like sort of standard multiplayer standard shooters. For me, I'm not good at it, but I enjoy a good Halo or Gears, or like I said, I've been playing a lot of Grand Theft Auto, and you get used to kind of that standard twin stick mentality. Mm-hmm. Once you start introducing this mechanic where in order to aim, I have to physically tilt the thing, but I'm not looking at the screen. I guess that's the part that kind of gets to me is, I'm using the gamepad to tilt to adjust my aim on the screen, but it's not on the actual gamepad screen. So if I was using it more, almost like an AR kind of experience where when I turn, it goes with me, that's one thing. But I just found it was a little awkward. I really liked it better, just once I figured out I could turn that off. Honestly, I just kind of assumed, well, it's Nintendo. They're defaulting me to this control scheme, and that's that.
Yeah.
Once I kind of turned it off, it felt a little more what I'm accustomed to, but I mean, I can see why people are going to like it or not. It's just they don't really make it clear that you can change it if you want a more traditional shooter control setup.
Yeah. To me, I found that the issue with the doing the twin stick, and I'm not unfamiliar. Like, I'm not a shooter player, but like I play third person action adventure games, which also do the similar thing. Like, I played Uncharted. It's it's a third person shooter game as well. Like, it's not Splatoon's not a first person; it's a third person shooter. For me, it highlights how Nintendo's controllers aren't really designed for shooting games because they're in both cases on the Wii U Pro controller or on the gamepad, the twin sticks are at the top near the triggers. For me, I found I could sort of look left and look right. That's not a problem. But when I try to go up and down, I couldn't hold the finger, like, because the trigger is so close to the thumbstick. The way you hold the controller doesn't really lend you to get the proper grip. For me, I found to be able to look up and down to help do that aiming. That's why I found I needed to use the gamepad and use that subtle up to be able to go, got him, and shit like that. So, because with the PS4, 3, and Xbox controllers, whatever, they've got that right analog stick is always at the bottom right. It doesn't matter where the other stick is, but that bottom one's always bottom right, and you have a better grip when you do that. To me, I think that's why I couldn't play that way. I needed to use the motion controls.
Yeah, but I to the game's credit, having usually that's kind of designed more for having those twitch finesse reflexes, and there's not a lot of times when this game really calls for it. Like, it's just run around, in a frenzied state and, have fun with it and just spray your ink wherever you can. So it's, it works in spite of itself, I would almost say, or, it's an adjustment. Once you figure out and get used to it, you'll be, you should be just fine.
Yeah. So I think we're kind of in agreement in the final verdict on this. Is like, as long as you are okay, you're getting it for, and understand that you need to be playing online with the online multiplayer aspect of the game, I think it's a recommend from us, right?
It is, and especially, with kids, this may be a gateway drug to Halo or to Call of Duty or Battlefield or whatever, whatever other shooters are out there. Mm-hmm. But it's it's a good all ages, family friendly shooter, which is not words that we usually put together.
No, it's certainly not. So yeah, I guess we're gonna give it the two thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm 4 thumbs. Anyway,
thumbs up.
We're tentative 4 thumbs.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go like 3/4 thumbs because we'll wait until we see the final release. We'll talk about that next week once we've had a chance to see what the full version of the game is once they've unlocked everything, and hopefully it will live up to our expectations, and your boys will keep inking all over the place.
Well, I certainly hope so. Just keep it clean. So I guess with that, thanks for watching our video review of Splatoon. Don't forget to check our website, GamerPops.com, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, YouTube.com/GamerPops. Any other plugs? Tweet us.
Yeah,
at
hit us on Twitter at GamerPops. We're on there all the time. We're happy to chat, happy to parlay back and forth, and just generally have a good fun time on there.
All right. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next week where we update a little bit more on what we think of Splatoon after release. Thanks a lot for watching.
Now to go play more Splatoon.
Excellent.